My advocacy is always freedom of religion, social justice, and also freedom of speech.
Mubarak Bala is an outspoken atheist from Kano, a conservative state in the northern part of Nigeria. He frequently shared his beliefs on social media and later became president of the Humanist Association of Nigeria.
I'm a critic of religion. People take it as an insult, but I don't see it as an insult or blasphemy. If they feel hurt that this is what I'm doing, they can actually just unfriend me. They don't need to follow it.
Mubarak's forthright criticism of Islam and religion in general caused outrage among conservatives in the country, and after Muslim lawyers in Kano complained to the police, he was arrested in April 2020.
Just reading all these posts make me unhappy. Touches me.
Millions of threats, they're going to kill him, they're going to chop his body, they're going to cut off his head. I told him, come to Abuja immediately.
We could not reach out to him, we could not talk to him, we could not send people to him. In fact, initially it was difficult to even get them to admit that they had him.
What followed is a landmark case that has placed the threats to freedom of religion and expression in Nigeria under new scrutiny, and that ended with a sentencing that sent shockwaves around the world. My name is Yemisi Adegoke, and I'm a British-Nigerian journalist based in Lagos. Nigeria is a deeply religious country. 97% of its population define themselves as religious. But religion has often been at the heart of extreme acts of violence here in Africa's most populous nation. Tensions run deep and sometimes turn violent. Against this backdrop, could Mubarak Bala's case be a litmus test for how far the country has come in its tolerance towards its atheist minority? Although Christian and Muslim communities are found all across the country, Nigeria is broadly divided between the largely Christian south and predominantly Muslim north. Mubarak, the son of a Muslim religious scholar in the northern state of Kano, was dividing his time between Kaduna, where he worked, and Abuja, where his wife Amina and their baby lived. I travelled to meet with Amina. The pair had only been married 8 months when Mubarak was arrested.
I
see you're hard at work.
Yeah. Please come.
How are you?
Well, with what is happening, I have no choice than to just be strong. That's it. We had not even celebrated our first anniversary before this issue came in. I was so down, you know. I kept crying and crying and crying because that was the only way I could ease my pain, to cry.
How old was your baby when Mubarak was arrested?
My baby was 6 weeks when he was taken away.
Mubarak has missed a lot.
He has lost almost everything. Everything, in short.
Do you think it's worth it?
I don't really know, honestly. He should just get his life back. That's all. I don't want to cry. We should just get our life back.
Can you tell me about, some of the things he was posting on social media and what kind of led up to his arrest?
He was arrested because he was accused of making blasphemous posts on Facebook. I asked him, Mubarak, why are you doing this? He sighed and was like, I have so many reasons for being what I am today. People use religion to cover up their evil. Whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Christian, whatever. They use religion to steal. They use religion to kill. They use religion to bully. They use religion for power. He said, I cannot pretend about this. I have had this in my mind for so long. I cannot keep quiet again. I was on Facebook then and I saw those threads. Some people were posting his pictures. Millions of threats. They're going to kill him. They're going to chop his body. They're going to cut off his head. If he's not being killed, that something is going to happen, all those things. So I told him, come to Abuja immediately.
But before he could join his wife, Bala was arrested. I travelled to Kano State to meet the lawyer who wrote the petition that led to his detention. Kano State is one of the 12 states in northern Nigeria where Islamic law is practiced alongside the country's secular law.
This is the petition. The complaint is against Mubarak Bala for publicly insulting Prophet Muhammad on his Facebook page, contrary to Section 210 of the Penal Code, not Sharia law. They said Mubarak Bala was born and raised as a Muslim, but for his own personal reason, decided to leave Islam for atheism, and has since then been writing stuffs that are provocative to the Muslims. Among such stuffs is calling the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, with all sorts of denigrating names and other statements that will definitely incite Muslims and provoke them to take law into their hands, which may ultimately result into public disturbance and breach of peace. Fair comments is within the law. Insult is extending boundaries. In every religion, there's something that is sacred.
You saw the post here, the one that you just showed me, and you said that you were really offended when you saw it.
Yeah, the whole community are offended.
Couldn't you have just blocked his page, closed your computer?
There are some insults that you cannot sleep when someone shouts it with you. As I'm talking to you now, I'm very much tensed.
You're tense now?
Of course, yes. Just reading all these posts make me unhappy. He crosses the line, touching someone that they hold dear, more than their mothers and fathers, more than anything in the world.
So in the petition he sent to the police, SS Umar accused Mubarak of insulting religion with the intent of causing a breach to the peace under Section 210 of the Kano State Penal Code. It was public knowledge at this point that Mubarak was no longer a Muslim.
How much more difficult and perhaps dangerous is it for you as a Muslim to declare that you don't have faith anymore?
Had he been, he would have been tried under Islamic law and would have faced the death penalty, as blasphemy is a capital offence. Given Mubarak's knowledge of tensions in the north, it made me wonder why he would decide to play with fire in this way. Perhaps he felt he was protected by the Nigerian constitution, which guarantees freedom of thought and expression. But human rights lawyer Adeola Oyinlade tells me that there are limitations in place as to how far these protections stretch. If you're deemed to have breached the peace, public health, public order, or public morality, then these guarantees no longer apply. But Mubarak's case is new territory.
We've not really had cases of blasphemy going even to the highest court of the land. So the courts has not made specific decision on a specific blasphemy case so far in Nigeria.
And what exactly counts as blasphemy under the law?
In our laws, we have a penal code that applies in the north and a criminal code that applies in the south. That does not expressly mention blasphemy, but that looks at the ingredients of blasphemy. In the southern part of Nigeria, if you say something offensive with intention to create hatred to a class of people's religion, is an offense. Penal code says something similar. In the Sharia law of Kano State, for example, it went as far as mentioning if you say something against Holy Quran and the Prophet. So we don't have a unified definition of what constitutes blasphemy in Nigeria.
And doesn't that also just sort of leave room for abuse of these laws because they're not clearly defined?
Yes, when there is lacuna, then it has created opportunity for people to see things based on their own perspective and react in that way.
My journey continues in Imo State, southeastern Nigeria, where I'm meeting with Leo Igwe, a friend of Mubarak Bala and founder of the Humanist Association of Nigeria. Leo knows firsthand what it's like to be an atheist in the country.
Religion plays a lot of role in the everyday life of Nigerians. If you are the free-thinking type, life becomes a struggle. There is a lot of capital, social capital, in believing in God.
In this setting, Mubarak and Leo found in each other kindred spirits.
Listening to him gave me hope, made me have this sense of fulfillment. Yes, after all, I'm not that crazy person a lot of people think I am. And we started working together until he was arrested in 2020. This place is densely Christian. This is where I was born, this is where I grew up, and this is where I worked as a seminarian or somebody training to be a priest. One of the seminaries I attended, this is it. I started reading about humanism when I was in the seminary. Humanism resonated with me because it made me see religion as a human creation. There is that sense of a superior entity at the center. Human beings actually crafted that entity and sometimes are ready to sanction and sanctify the killing of human beings, the oppression of human beings in the name of that entity.
Mubarak's case has increased the strain being felt by atheists across the country. Meetings run by the Humanist Association offer a space where people feel safe to share their stories of oppression and intimidation. The association was founded by Leo in the 90s, but to get it officially recognized was a challenge. It took him about 17 years to hit upon a combination of words that satisfied the authorities.
We were submitting names. When I submit the name, corporate affairs will say I should rephrase. So I would do Association of Nigerian Humanists, Humanist Society of Nigeria. I tried all those combinations, with different lawyers. They couldn't register. It was tough, trying to bring people together and also trying to sometimes say who you are. It's only when I come in an environment like this that I laugh without looking at my back.
Are any of you guys feeling pressure or feeling threatened?
I used to work in the hospital, and the man made it mandatory that everybody must pray in the morning. Before you inject a patient, you must pray. When I now became like a full atheist, I stopped all these things and kind of impeded on my job. At some point, I had to just blend in. I have some guy told me that, do you go to church? I said, no, I don't go to church. Like, what? You're making me lose the love I have for you. Then I playfully said, I don't have church attire. The next day, he went to boutique and bought me clothes.
Why is it important that you are vocal about, I do not practice any of these beliefs?
I always say, you don't have to come out. I am an advocate of that. If you're still dependent on your boss to pay your salary, why do you have to tell your boss, no, I won't pray? But for how long? You understand? And to what extent?
Meeting with some of the members of the Humanist Association today has really sort of driven home how lonely it can be to be an atheist in this country. There's also a certain poignancy to the fact that they chose to hold the meeting here. This is Freedom Park, which used to be an old colonial prison. And there's a sort of irony to that this is one of the few places where, when they all gather together, they actually feel free.
The fear of not being able to speak your mind freely was really brought home to me when I met with Ibrahim, which is not his real name. In response to Mubarak's arrest, he posted online that no one should be threatened for speaking against the Prophet Muhammad, and because of this, he was forced to go into hiding.
I was accused of committing blasphemy. Once you're accused of blasphemy, that means you've committed treason. Around 3 a.m., I discovered that my house was on fire. I had to leave with only my phone and nothing else.
So they burned down your house?
Yes. Since Mubarak Bala was jailed, his arrest created a kind of panic amongst ex-Muslims in northern Nigeria. Nearly all of us. There are lots of us who decided to disengage from social media activities because, the emotion and outrage was so high that once people discover that you are not a Muslim, you are poised to be a target.
With Ibrahim's fears still ringing in my ears, I meet with the lead on Mubarak's defense team, James Ibor.
I'm an atheist myself, so most times when atheists are in trouble because of their belief, they reach out to me. Leo contacted me on the 28th of April 2020 that Mubarak has been abducted. Further inquiry revealed that he was arrested by the police. He was transferred to Kano State. he was detained in, and we could not reach out to him, we could not talk to him, we could not send people to him. In fact, initially when he was moved, it was difficult to even get them to admit that they had him. It took up to a month or thereabout to confirm that they were holding Mubarak. Now we started again the struggle to have access to him. He was denied access to his lawyers, he was denied access to family members. We contacted National Human Rights Commission and so many UN agencies mounted pressure to allow Mubarak have access to his lawyers and family.
The meeting with Mubarak's lawyer prompted me to seek out the Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission to get clarity on how events actually unfolded.
Our office in Kano was asked to monitor and go and try to see him while he was in police detention in Kano. So that was how we started engaging the authorities to make sure that his constitutional rights of access to his lawyer and his family was restored to him. When we went to request for his release or his being charged to court, the explanation they gave us was that if he was allowed to go along the streets, maybe people will lynch him or mob him or something like that. So they were like saying it was like a protective kind of custody, that it was in his own interest that he was being detained.
Mubarak was arrested in April 2020, but wasn't able to see his lawyers until October that year. It took almost 2 years before he was arraigned or formally brought before the court to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty.
We're on our way to the courthouse, but before we get there, we're going to pick up Mubarak's lawyer. The official case starts today. Hi, James. We're just driving in. Morning, James.
Thank you.
How are you?
Thank you.
Mubarak's alleged crimes relate to posts published online, and yet where he created those posts is critical to his defense. If he did not post while he himself was in Kano State, his lawyers say that his arrest would have been unlawful.
If we prove our case and the court eventually agrees with us, he will be discharged and acquitted. Worst case scenario is that he will be convicted and the maximum sentence is 3 years imprisonment.
Mubarak has now been in prison for almost 2 years, so even if convicted, his team believe he will be free within a year.
Good morning.
We have actually agreed that Mubarak's case should be taken last.
Why? Why did you want it last?
Just because of the sensitive nature, so we have fewer persons in court. The trial is on, and we are prepared to fight it even up to Supreme Court. If Mubarak is convicted, it will be a slap to the claim of religious freedom in Nigeria. And if he's acquitted, it will be a victory and a strong signal that there is hope in the campaign to separate religion from state politics. I consider it an honor to be providing legal services to Mubarak. I'm not just doing that for Mubarak, I'm doing it to all atheists in the whole world. I'm doing it for myself, I'm doing it for my children and my grandchildren.
Something is wrong. And until we begin to speak out, and speak out strongly and firmly, we will continue on this path of destruction. We have to work towards building a society where people can go and live anywhere they want to live without being scared because of who they are or the views they profess or the religious or non-religious beliefs they hold. Whatever it takes, I am ready to go that length as long as I'm alive, no matter the risk involved.
It's been an incredible first day here at Kano High Court. It should have been the first day in Mubarak Bala's trial. But he shocked everyone. When the clerk was reading out the charges, he raised his hand and said, "I pray for conviction." He pled guilty to all 18 counts. Now, his lawyer tried to intervene, tried to persuade him to consider changing his plea. He tried to speak to the judge, but no one could change his mind. He was absolutely firm that he pled guilty. This decision is sure to send shockwaves. I'm astonished. This is not what I expected at all today. James, how are you feeling after that?
Honestly, I'm a bit disturbed and devastated, but I think I want to still have some audience with me later this evening or tomorrow morning to really understand what happened. He has not even given us the opportunity to provide a defense for me.
Mubarak pled guilty, but what came next in court was even more astonishing. The judge pronounced a sentence that no one was expecting.
Hello, Amina. James.
What did you say?
Yeah, he was sentenced to 24 years imprisonment. He pleaded guilty for all the count charges, the 18 count charges.
Amina's stunned silence upon hearing the news of Mubarak's 24-year prison sentence speaks to the shock of the court issuing such a severe judgment. SS Umar, who wrote the petition that got Mubarak detained, was in the courtroom when Mubarak received the sentence.
And as the judge was sort of reading out his sentence, they kept saying, "As the court pleases, as the court pleases." And you could see that there were people in there that were really happy with not only him pleading guilty, but with the fact that the sentence was so steep. If somebody as influential and popular as Mubarak can be sentenced to 24 years in prison, you know, what's a younger kid who doesn't necessarily have the same sort of backing going to do?
It is me that made a complaint. So it is my duty to follow the case. I really feel bad for the wife and the little son. But I'm not feeling bad because his father has been sentenced to 24 years imprisonment. No. I just felt bad because his father had caused a serious problem for himself that makes him not to be with his family.
Having heard SS Umar's satisfaction with the outcome of the trial, I asked Kano State's Attorney General about the nature of the sentencing and how the final judgment resulted in 24 years in prison.
It is the judge who is responsible to hear the case and to give judgment. That is beyond the Attorney General's power. What he did was, when Mubarak Bala admitted to each count of the charge, the judge found him guilty on each count of the charge based on his plea, and then ordered that the sentences should run consecutively instead of concurrently.
By pleading guilty, Mubarak thought he'd be out in a year, but it backfired completely.
I was angry at first. Why should he plead guilty? The outcome was so, so like a blow. He didn't kill anybody and he was given such sentence. Why? My son is just 2 years old. Is he going to grow up without seeing him for 24 years? What will become of us?
There's a feeling that this sentencing will have to increase in terms of the risk that humanists face or free thinkers face. But we are going to go ahead with our free-thinking ideas, and that it is not just good for us, it's also good, for the people of Kano, because how else are we going to address extremism and faith-based violence and abuses except through free examination and free expression of our ideas about Islam and religion generally?
This is the prison where Mubarak is currently being kept. We haven't been granted permission to go and see him, but by all accounts, he seems to be holding up well given the circumstances.
There's so much I'd like to ask Mubarak directly in order to better understand what has led to this. Perhaps one day.